Hello, it's day 2 in the Pyrenees, although not actually a summit finish. We're down at holy water level in Lourdes for the finish of stage 13. Now, there was an intense editorial debate in the lead ITV production vehicle on the way to the start this morning involving Frank and Andy Schleck and whether we should use Rolf Harris's 2 little boys to open the show. Now, I managed to persuade the producer that we shouldn't, so apologies for that if you'd like to have heard it. I could see where he was coming from, though. I wonder if it was ever a hit in Luxembourg. Anyway, to the accompaniment of a more respectful generic musical backing, let's take a look at the bunk bed brothers and their 2-pronged assault on their rivals yesterday.
Contador will be assessing him. He's in the best position too, just sat behind him. He's in a Schleck sandwich at the moment. Frank at the back and Andy at the front.
Oh, there's a move by Frank Schleck now. It was going to be the 1-2.
That is the 1-2. It was the dummy by Andy. Now they've got to go.
And here it is again.
This is the next attack by the champion of Luxembourg, and Contador has kicked again, so too has Cadel Evans. They're going after Frank Schleck.
Frank and me, we kept on attacking left and right, and he went away, he got some seconds, and I think for the first mountain stage, we're pretty happy.
And so he should be, although a look at the video shows that apart from this rather unemphatic move to the front from Andy, which was followed by an immediate look over his shoulder, all the attacks actually came from Schleck the elder.
Here's another move by Frank Schleck again.
Well, that's another acceleration, and this time a little bit slow in the reaction, and that is the gap. Now they're going to have to react from the main field.
While Frank rode away and nearly caught the 2 men in front of him, Andy looked no more dynamic a leader than he has done for the rest of the season so far. Certainly no more impressive than Cadel Evans or Ivan Basso, who, although we didn't see it, looks most likely from his position on the line to have launched the late move that put 13 seconds into Alberto Contador. A Contador who in any event was clearly not at his best.
I mean, can't say nothing. Contador is probably one of the best riders in the peloton there now, so I believe he gets better every day, so if this was a bad day for him, I think it wasn't too bad.
The question now is which brother is actually best placed to take on Contador if and when he recovers from his injuries and tries to attack himself to take back the time he needs. Although it's not one that seems to be a topic of conversation around the dinner table at the Leopard Trek Team Hotel in the evenings.
I like to win the Tour, but if my brother wins the Tour, I'm as happy as if I would win, so we gotta play smart. We are both pretty good right now, so we gotta play smart. The question is not if we can win the Tour, the question is how can we win it.
Well, the pair of them are pretty well placed, 2nd and 4th behind Thomas Voeckler, 29 seconds apart, with Cadel Evans between them. Although it's hard to avoid the feeling that if Andy is ever going to emerge as a real leader and winner, he'd be better off being separated from his older brother rather than relying on him so much. Ivan Basso is 5th and seems recovered from the training crash that had most of his writing him off. Damiano Cunego is 6th, and Alberto Contador 7th ahead of yesterday's stage winner Samuel Sanchez. Contador now a minute 43 behind Andy Schleck, 2:11 behind Frank. Ned's been in search of what's ailing the defending champion.
Plenty of issues then to deal with at the Saxo Bank Team Hotel in Pau this morning as the mechanics prepare the bikes for Alberto Contador after yet another puzzlingly off-colour display from the champion, this time in the high mountains. A load of questions. I doubt we'll get very many answers, though. If Contador himself is an enigma wrapped in a mystery, then Richie Port, his mountain lieutenant, is more open to scrutiny.
It's stressful, and you know, we've had some really bad luck, and you know, I think yesterday he might have gone a bit hunger flat, but look, you know, the form's there, and he's a true champion, and most true champions can bounce back.
The problems mount up, though, around him. The race piling discomfort upon injury. First it was the knee, now the suggestion that his backside is smarting too from a fall in the first week. His mechanic telling us that the saddle position remains a constant source of irritation.
Well, I think when you crash like he did the first week, you don't feel 100% comfortable, but for sure his biggest injury is his knee.
And is this something you expect to be able to ride out over the coming week, or is it just not going away?
Well, I definitely hope so.
Yeah. Contador himself, though, remains emphatically on message. He's still talking a good tour, even if he's not riding one yet.
Bueno, pues bien, yo creo que bien. Ayer lo vuelvo a decir, creo que fue un buen día, independientemente de que me dejé unos segundos, creo que fue un buen día. Creo que a medida que vayan pasando las etapas me vienen contando mejor y bueno, espero todavía poder dar la vuelta a esto.
You think he can do it?
I think he can, you know, it's 2 minutes, you know, it's like even Buster said, that's one good attack, and plus he's got a good time trial up his sleeve as well, so you know, it's a hard time trial, and it could come down to that.
But no talk about quitting?
No, not at all.
Hasn't come onto the agenda at all?
No, 1 second.
When Bjarne speaks, the world listens and then nods off. Now, there's today's route, 152.5 kilometres, the shortest of the race so far, setting out from Pau, one of the Tour's favourite towns, to Lourdes. 1/3 and 1/4 category climb to get over before the intermediate sprint. Then the big climb of the day, the super category Col d'Aubisque. From there, it should be a furious downhill chase towards the finish in Lourdes, with a great chance of a stage win for whoever's in the day's breakaway. Now, there were 174 men at the start this morning. Katyusha's Denis Galandzianov was eliminated on time yesterday, coming in over 59 minutes down, and Gert Stegmans of Quick-Step abandoned overnight. That quickly dropped to 171 with 3 abandons. Andreas Klöden, who crashed on the Tourmalet yesterday, had to have the bike removed from under him, he was so stiff. He was the 4th Radio Shack man to go in this race. Rabobank lost their second rider, Lars Bohm. He'd been hanging off the back since the start. And unseen by the cameras, Katyusha lost their second man in as many days as Vladimir Isaichev abandoned. Now, a 10-man break went early, so the intermediate sprint was for 11th and 5 points. Philippe Gilbert was led out by Andre Greipel, and he was well ahead of Mark Cavendish's HTC train as they hit the banner. The only problem being that it was the banner to announce the start of the sprint, not the finish. Gilbert dropped back dismayed, and then the real sprint began without him.
This should be a formality for Mark now. It's only 5 points, but every little helps here when it goes in the bank. And he won't be worried about those riders up front. They're not near him in the points competition. There are points available, of course, at the finishing line. He's got the best sprinter up against him in second place in the competition following. He knows it now. He's looked over to see who's sitting on his back wheel. The final lead out, the smooth pedalling Mark Renshaw. Now the jumpers come early. I think that was a good move by Rojas. He had to go first. Now he's got Cavendish up against the edge, and it's a double header here. Now Cavendish wants this one. Oh! Well, I don't think there's any ground for complaints. Cavendish moved a bit there. I'm not sure he got that either.
Well, he didn't get it at all, but he was complaining a fraction because he thinks that Rojas actually closed the door on him a fraction there, but it was fairly wide. He got caught out by the jump of Rojas.
That was the only way to do it. Take your hats off to the Spanish rider there. I don't think there's any grounds for complaints there, quite honestly.
So Mark Cavendish lost a point to Jose Joaquin Rojas there to cut his lead to 17, but he gained 4 on Gilbert, who now trails by 30 in 3rd place. So on to the one big climb of the day, the Col d'Aubisque. The 10-man break quickly broke up on the slopes of it, and as we join commentary, Jeremy Roy is alone at the front of the race, approaching the summit and the lead in the King of the Mountains competition.
Here he comes now as he races up towards the summit. He's still here now. The Français de Jeu rider, Jeremy Roy, chasing at 43 seconds and not gaining anything is David Moncoutier, and Thor Hushoff, the world champion, is in 3rd. The rest of this 10-man breakaway, according to the computer, are climbing in a bunch of 7, but we've never seen them since the climb started. If Hushoff can get together with Moncoutier and Jeremy Roy, then I think they're going to go to the finish. 1 kilometre to go for the best moment of this rider's life for sure. And if anybody has earned a polka dot jersey, Paul, it is this guy. Over 500 kilometres he's been in front of the 2,000 we've ridden in the Tour de France since we left Vendée.
I would expect to see Moncoutier summit in 2nd position, and if he uses his downhill abilities, he should be able to catch Jeremy Roy on the descent.
Into the mist at the top now, as we're over 5,000 feet here. There is the banner, and that gives this man, Jeremy Roy, his first ever leader's jersey, and he's in his 4th Tour de France. He'll go 5 points ahead in that competition now, as he now begins the descent.
They're picking up riders one at a time. This is Fofanov who's about to get picked up. There are only points available for the first 6 riders to cross the top of the outside categorized climb.
Yes, that's right. New rules again changed, so that's why that Samuel Sanchez back in the main field. There's more than 6 riders ahead of that peloton at the moment. 2nd place for David Moncoutier. 8 minutes and 2 seconds the gap now. I think these boys can settle in for the finish. There's nobody going to catch them. There's the peloton. Alberto Contador out of the saddle with his yellow glasses. Just behind him, having a drink there, is the top American cyclist, Tommy Danielson. Had a great day yesterday. Basso is number 91. On the far side is Frank Schleck. In front of him is his brother Andy. They're all just following wheels here.
So it's going to be just around about the 2-minute mark for Thor Hushovd. This is a very dangerous and tricky descent, especially in these misty conditions. I've ridden down this on a number of occasions in my career, and it's quite a sketchy descent as well once you start to go down the descent of the Col de Soulor. This is the first part. You go downhill, and then all of a sudden you've got to climb up a fraction to get up to the Soulor, which is not a categorized climb, and then the descent itself starts in earnest. But Jeremy Watt is really taking a few risks. He will know that around about 1 minute behind him he has David Moncoutier, and a minute further back he's got Thor Hushovd. So this would be Maxime Bouet, who's about to get picked up by the peloton, and that's nice to see that at least finally at the end of the day Française des Jeux, they've been knocking on the door since the start of this Tour de France, and they will now all of a sudden find themselves in a position with theoretically 2 leaders' jerseys at the end of today's stage, and that will be the lead in the King of the Mountains classification and the best young rider with Arnold Genezon. Ooh, the mist over the top of the Pyrenees. That is a very normal and typical sight of this part of the world.
Well, this is how life changes in the high Pyrenees, from the sun of the valleys below to the mist here. We're in the cloud line now. In fact, if anything, it's got quite bad up here, but they will descend very quickly out of it.
Fortunately, Phil, this low cloud, this low mist in the fog, I've been down this descent in the fog before, it is very sketchy indeed, and in fact on some occasions you can't even see more than 30 or 40 feet in front of you, and if you come on the wrong line around one of these corners, there is no safety net to catch you.
Well, this looks like the catch now as we continue the long descent away from the Col d'Aubisque. We've just had a little blip over the top of the Col de Soulor. We continue to descend towards Lourdes. David Moncoutier is being brought back by the world champion Thor Hushovd, and that will put them just 1 minute and 29 seconds behind the leader on the road, Jeremy Roy. This is Marc Madio, the manager of Jeremy Roy. Himself was a great cyclist. He won Paris-Roubaix twice. He's now shouting there at Jeremy Roy. He doesn't want this man to wait for those 2 behind, because they'll beat him in the sprint.
No, and that's what the order of the day is, and he can take advantage of the descent, because he will be touching speeds of between 35 to 40 miles an hour most of the time, which will make it very difficult for the group behind to pull back to him, but almost certainly very difficult for the main peloton to reduce their advantage. Well, we're looking there at 25 kilometers to go to the finish now, and that, I think, there's the junction. Quick chat, and I think Thor Hushovd is going to say, right, mate, let's organise ourselves, because at 1.5 minutes we can still win this stage.
I'm just wondering, well, Moncoutier's got to work with Thor Hushovd. He'll never beat him in the sprint, but he's got to work with him, because they're racing for second and third on the stage today. This is the peloton, still tightly packed together. They're on the climb of the Col de Soulor, which, as I've said, is not a prize climb. It's just a little blip on the way down at the mountain itself, the Aubisque. But Gilbert decided this is the time to go. There's a flurry of riders still in front. Boysenhagen of Team Sky is approximately 4 minutes ahead of Gilbert on the road, surviving from that breakaway. He's in company with the 2 other riders and still has a chance to stay away for the finish as well.
Well, I've got to question the tactics here, Phil, of Philippe Gilbert. Yes, I know he's got some incredible form in those legs of his, but there are not very many men in the world of professional cycling who can ride across a gap of 8.5 minutes. Unless, of course, he's thinking he can pick up some of the guys caught in the middle and just get himself a few more points for the points jersey competition.
I think that's exactly what he's doing, Paul. He wants points in that green jersey competition on the day that Mark Cavendish can't score again today, because he's no longer in the peloton. He's only got a couple today. A little bit worried, in fact, but he's on his way at 1:23. That is the gap behind Jeremy Roy. At 8:32 is the spread to the field, where Gilbert has just jumped away. And so we'll see if he can, but I don't think he can possibly catch the leaders. I might pick up 1 or 2 of the remnants of the 10-man breakaway. 1 or 2 already back in the pack.
Well, this is going to be a long, hard chase now for David Moncoutier in the red and white jersey there of Cofidis in first position, and Thor Hushovd. Hushovd got a lot of firepower. Just having a quick look there to see which team manager in the car there for Garmin Cervelo this afternoon.
I couldn't quite see who it was, but in any case, it looks as though it might have been Bingen Fernandez, the Spanish member of the squad there. Side faced on, but now a lot of the work is being done here by Thor Hushovd. He's taken advantage here on a day you'd never expect him. He has won stages, he's won 8 stages. Let me tell you where they all are, then you'll know they're not in the mountains. Bourg-en-Bresse, Quimper up in the coast in the north of west of France, Strasbourg, Paris on the flat there where he won a prologue in Strasbourg, Joigny, Saint-Brieuc, Barcelona, but it wasn't a mountain finish, and the Arenberg area of Belgium. That's where he's won his stages, but now he's in the Pyrenees, and he wants desperately to get up to Jeremy Roy, where he knows if he does, he could outsprint both of these guys on one leg.
He's a tough character, Thor Hushovd, Phil, going back. You know, I kind of forgot that in 1998 he was the world under-23 time trial champion there, but since then he's turned himself across to being a serious contender in races like the Tour of Flanders and Paris-Roubaix, the big hard man one-day classics. But he's not scared in the mountains of going out and trying to make a move like this.
Well, he did win that prologue time trial in Strasbourg, and big George Hincapie was very sad that day because he got pipped by a hatful of seconds, didn't he?
Yeah, but the next day George Hincapie came and prevented Thor Hushovd from actually conserving the yellow jersey, and he took a 1-second time bonus at around about 15 kilometers to go. And I think Thor Hushovd went out and picked the jersey back the next day.
Yes, days when they had bonuses. They don't have any time bonus in the Tour de France now. I think it makes a much better race because of it. 8:21 on the peloton. I think at 22.5 kilometers to go, we can officially write them out of the act today. These boys are racing for the prizes and the glory of the Tour de France as they're watched by millions around the world, and by several 100,000 on the route itself. Jeremy Roy is living a perfect dream just now. The 27-year, well, he's 28, just before the Tour de France started. His only win this year, the first official race of the year in Europe, the Grand Prix Marseillais. And he's only ever won 3 races in his life, and not apart from stage 5 of Paris-Nice in 2009, you wouldn't really count any of the others as serious top wins for a pro bike rider.
No, but all of a sudden something clicks in a bike rider's career, and it seems to have clicked for Jeremy Roy in the Tour de France this year. He's been aggressive, he's got himself into the moves, and having ridden over a climb like the Col de Tourmalet in first position, that gives you confidence, and it really takes away your fear of the mountains.
Well, he's got no fear today. He's the king of the mountains tomorrow on one of the toughest mountain stages of this year's Tour de France, as we say goodbye to the Pyrenees with a vengeance, and that will be tomorrow. But today we're looking here at the chase group, the remnants of that 10-man breakaway. This is Boysenhagen, who's setting the pace, Jerome Pinault, who's here now, and Lars Bak of HTC High Road, the Dane who's in his first Tour de France.
Well, quick step coming forward there. Jérôme Pinault was a name on the lips of many people this afternoon as a possible aggressor trying to get that first stage victory for France. And today, this man is trying to do that because he still leads this race. It's down to 1 minute and 16 seconds the advantage. But Thor Hushovd and Moncoutier behind are working extremely well together to try and peg back this rider. The next banner you'll see will be 20 kilometers to go. The main field aren't going to see him again this afternoon because they are a long way back, as the Bleu Blanc Rouge is flying high in the sky for France this afternoon with the hope and belief that they will be able to get themselves their first stage victory.
There is one voice missing from France this summer, and it belongs to Laurent Fignon. The 2-time winner of the race died 5 weeks after last summer's tour finally reached Paris. Fignon was there, of course, in his capacity as French television's prime asset, but the cancer, which had hit him young and he had battled for a year, returned to claim his life. Fignon burst onto the scene at a time when Bernard Hinault's domination was in full cry. He rode the 82 season in support of Hinault, helping him to win the Giro d'Italia. But in 1983, a knee injury kept Hinault out of the Tour de France and opened the way for Fignon to debut. He rode into the yellow jersey on Alpe d'Huez and then bossed the final time trial and won his first ever Tour de France. He was scarcely 23 years old. The following year, Hinault moved on to La Vie Claire, leaving the way open for Fignon and the Badger to do battle in earnest. The young pretender, clad in the tricolour jersey of the French national champion, rode an exhibition race, crushing the opposition with effortless time trialling. On stage 17, Hinault launched a series of desperate counterattacks, but could do little to stem the vigour of Fignon's prodigious talent. He won 5 stages that year, and the whole race by a 10-minute margin. So France sat back and anticipated a series of Fignon wins, but it wasn't to be. Then in 1989 he came back with renewed form, but butted straight up against Greg LeMond. The two rode out an epic battle, swapping the race lead time and time again by narrow margins, with Fignon then finally regaining the yellow jersey on Alpe d'Huez before losing it on the remarkable final stage, a 24-kilometre time trial on the Champs-Élysées.
55 seconds is countdown. He has lost the Tour de France by 8 seconds.
The closest Tour de France ever ridden. Famously, when asked, "Are you the man who lost the Tour by 8 seconds?" Fignon answered, "No, I'm the man who won it twice." In retirement, he became an authoritative, outspoken voice on French cycling coverage, as well as running his own cyclotourism business in the mountains of the Pyrenees, his spiritual home. In 2009, he was diagnosed with cancer of the esophagus. He spoke to us for the last time last summer and appeared to be in good heart. It wasn't to be. He died on August the 31st, 2010.
20 kilometres to go, 12 miles if you like. It sounds closer for the Frenchman. Flying the flag the day after Bastille Day. The Frenchman has got the lead in the King of the Mountains. Now he wants to end the perfect day for Jeremy Roy by victory in Lourdes. Only the second time we've ever finished a stage of the Tour de France, and never since the late 1940s.
Now what's going on here? Thor Hushovd just set up and lost the back wheel of David Moncoutier for a moment there.
Waiting for him. I think he just had a drink. He's put his bottle back in his cage there, but Moncoutier made it quite clear he needs him to go to the finish, because otherwise they're going to have no chance of bringing him back. They are getting closer, 67 seconds behind.
Well, we'll get an official time check once we go under the banner there indicating 20 kilometres to go, and it should be just around this corner. Moncoutier is all over his machine. He too wants to take on board a bottle before the 20 kilometre to go mark, because actually the rules in professional cycling say that after 50 kilometres of the race you can take on board bottles from your team cars, but after this 20 kilometre to go sign, there's no more bottles from the car. No,
got to stay away from the riders as they prepare for the finish now. 20 kilometres to go for the chase here. The clock is saying 1:06. Well, look at this. Philippe Gilbert has managed to break the elastic and get clear of the peloton. Has he got the speed left, though, to start picking off any riders in front of him?
So, Europcar having a standard day at the office, as you can see them in the business quarter of the peloton this afternoon. The green jerseys are interlocked there by a yellow jersey of Thomas Voeckler. It'll be interesting to know whether or not there is going to be a junction at the front. It'll be interesting. I just need to get back to see how Thor Hushovd and David Moncoutier are working. The gap at 20 kilometres to go was down to 1 minute and 3 seconds.
Well, it's really touch and go if they can survive, Paul. The pack has just gone under 25 kilometres. This boy's at 17.4 kilometres. The only two people he has to worry about are now 52 seconds behind him. Thor Hushovd, David Moncoutier. Well, and it looks as though Moncoutier is having to relinquish the pace-making for the strong man here, as he goes the shortest way around the road, just clipping the edges of the grass as he goes right to left on a twisty course. This is Philippe Gilbert, who is out on the road. He's been joined by Bauke Mollema, and Bauke must be in that little group that was up the road earlier, and he's just picked him up.
Now it's Team Leopard Trek have said, OK, well, enough is enough. We'll come up and put 1 or 2 riders to the front end of this pack as well to start lifting the pace, because we don't want to be left looking ridiculous with a massive gap of 9 minutes of the end of the stage. They are not very far. The lone leader now is not very far away from Isaac Ost, and that will leave him then with about 13 kilometres to go to the finish. But now he comes onto the flatter part of the course, and again that will turn towards the advantage of big Thor Hushovd.
Well, I think everybody would like to think that Jeremy will win the day, and nothing against Thor Hushovd or David Moncoutier, but he's really taken the race to the rest of the Tour de France today. He's got one slice of success with the King of the Mountains jersey, so he may have to content himself with that when he gets to the finishing line, because Thor Hushovd is now ripping along the road, and it's now down to 28 seconds, and it seems to be now all of the work being done by the God of Thunder. Now, this is Marc Madiot again. Another little question now. He's giving him a drink there. He'll probably get a fine for that.
You get a fine, a monetary fine, and also a time bonus fine as well. Well, that's not important to him. He's a long way down in the overall standing. Started the day almost an hour and a quarter back. You just noticed there, Thor Hushovd just saying, come on, David Moncoutier, work with me. We can still do this. I think they're probably starting to get that lone leader, Phil, into their sights on the long straight roads. The time gap now is being told at 20 seconds.
Yes, 20 scant seconds. Hushovd did the same to Moncoutier when he caught him on the way off the Obisque, and now he's doing the same to Jeremy Roy. Leopard Trek have put some weight into the leading bunch here now, just picking up the tempo as they go under 20 kilometers to go. Our lone leader is 11.2 kilometers from the finish. He's looking for that 10-kilometer banner. 10 kilometers to go now. He's still clear, but it's close. The two pursuers are 18 seconds back of him, and Jeremy Roy is really fighting to hold them off now, and he's suffering. You can see that. There is the same 10-kilometer banner now for the two-man chase.
Well, at a moment like this, Phil, he's hardly got any energy left in those legs of his, but he's got to push that pain barrier that little bit further on. He's got to give his all right now, because he knows if he gets caught after this long, hard effort that he's put in, he's racing for second or third position, because they all know how good Thor Hushovd is. 18 seconds is not very much. That's about 300 meters. There they can now see the cars. The red car just in front of Thor Hushovd is riding right behind Jeremy Roy.
8:36, forget the break, the peloton behind. They're almost 10 kilometers or 6 miles behind this rider today. We'll have to wait for those to come in for quite a while, because this man, who is the new leader in the King of the Mountains, is still trying to hang on and give France its first victory of this year's Tour de France. He's heading towards 9 kilometers to go, and the other two are now 16 seconds back of him.
He's really got to bury himself. In a situation like this, you've got to hurt all the way to the finish. 10 kilometers normally will take a rider between 13 and 14 minutes, and he'll be calculating that in his mind, saying, this pain has got to be with me for that much longer. I've got to hold off. I've got to prevent Thor Hushovd coming back, otherwise I've lost my day. But he's not lost his day completely, Phil, because he will have a chance of pulling on the polka dot jersey at the end of the day.
This is the back of the peloton, which is a long, long, thin line of riders, but although they're going quick because they're going downhill, they're not closing any gaps anymore. They're going to ride to the finish as one. There's a little bit of an interest to try and bring back Philippe Gilbert from the Movistar team, because he will damage the position of Rojas if he stays out front. It's a tight finish at the top at the moment for the green jersey. Cavendish will keep that green jersey. This is the race of the day now. Jeremy Roy, written himself into the annals of the history of the Tour de France with some terrific riding for a week. And now look at this, Hushovd is notching it up a ramp here, and Moncoutier is just about hanging on to his back wheel.
Well, Thor has got the bit between the teeth now. He realizes he's got to peg it back. The kilometers are starting to tick away, and they still haven't pegged back that last 15 seconds or so. As he goes around all of these corners, he knows he's aiming at that car, Phil. That in his mind is psychologically what he wants to get himself to, because he knows just in front of that car is the man he's chasing.
Well, I'll tell you what, we started to go up this little ramp, and he's actually increased his lead again. It went out to 20. Now that reaction from Hushovd brought it back to 15. They can see him. He can see them. He's looking through his legs and under his arm. He knows they're coming, but he is not going to concede. Jeremy Roy has got too big a heart to give up. Roy has just come over that little rise there, and if anything, these little rises seem to be in his favour, because it hurts the other two. They're so flat out to try and bring him back. Now we start to have a descent here. That might throw it back to the favour of Hushovd. He's getting no help whatsoever from Moncoutier, and I think if they catch Jeremy Roy, Moncoutier will try to go alone to the finish. 6.2 kilometres to go. Very soon he'll see 5, which will only be 3 miles to the finish. Oh boy, he's suffering all sorts of pain, this man now, but he knows it's worth it today.
Well, for him, it's a chance of victory and a chance of glory. He's had a victory so far this year. It was the first race of the year, the Grand Prix de l'Ouverture, La Marseillaise. He won a race last year in Brittany, the Trophée Bro-Léon, and a year before that he won a stage of Paris-Nice, and that was in Vallon-Pont d'Arc.
I just saw, look, he's shaking his head here. I think he's generally can't help. He can't go through. He just can't give any help to Thor Hushovd. and Tor would not take kindly if he attacked if they did catch it with Jeremy Moore. The gap has gone out. No, it hasn't. It's come back. It's 14 seconds, despite the fact that Hushoff has taken a drink.
I actually feel, Phil, that in fact David Moncoutier does not want to work because he doesn't want to spoil the French party. Having a Frenchman work with Tor Hushoff, he knows that if they catch Jeremy Watt, it's going to be a victory for the man wearing 51, the world champion, and that's why now all of a sudden all of the work belongs to the responsibility of Tor Hushoff. But he's a strong, powerful character inside. He'll internalize all of this. He'll start and concentrate. But you know, for the last 5 kilometers, it's varied between 15 seconds and 20 seconds. It's not gone any less than that.
Meanwhile, at 10 kilometers to go, Philippe Gilbert and Bauke Mollema are still chasing here. And they're still ahead of the field. Philippe, the champion of Belgium, looking for green jersey points, even though there won't be that many, about 10. 5 kilometers to go, and he still looks as though he's flying across the roads of France today, bound for Lourdes. Well, dare I say, this boy is now going to have to pray for a miracle, because these two are so close to him. And in the last 3 miles of the race now, Hushoff, is he thinking, I'm not going to catch him, or is he thinking, I'll get him 2 kilometers out?
Well, Tor is not the kind of guy, Phil, who will give up in a situation like this. He's had glory in the Tour de France before. As you mentioned, he's won on 8 separate occasions. He's ridden the event 11 times, and he knows that an opportunity to win a stage does not present itself very often. David Moncoutier knows the same thing. He's a 2-time winner of stages at the Tour de France, but he doesn't want to spoil the party for France. The French have not had a stage over the first 12 stages of the Tour de France this year. And can you imagine what the French press would do to David Moncoutier if he helped Tor Hushoff to catch Jeremy Watt?
As they've done in the past, they've always said, oh, the French always chase the French. Well, today it looks as though Moncoutier on a rival team is not chasing the French. We've just gone under. 4 kilometers to go now. That's about 5 minutes of pain for Jeremy Roy. And can Hushoff close that gap? He is now under 4 kilometers to go. The gap is locked at 15 seconds.
Well, it is quite amazing. You know, you can see the man that he's chasing. They're locked in, but they've been in the saddle for a long time. They escaped early on after the first climb of the day, the 3rd category climb of the Col de Cucuron. And from that point onwards, they started to form that 10-man breakaway. They're all now starting to feel the fatigue of the last 10 or 15 minutes of today's stage.
And still out in front of the peloton is Gusev, also Boysenhagen, Pinot, back. They're all still ahead of the bunch. We just got no cameras to show them to you. And the peloton is probably about a minute behind Philippe Gilbert, who's trying to race for a handful of green points for that competition. He could finish up in 2nd place tonight. But this is the race for the win today, and this man has been a hero since he went away on his own on the climb of the Col d'Aubis. And the clock is still holding. 13 seconds. There's the gap. And in fact, Moncoutier has gone to the front, but there's no power there.
There isn't very much power at all, and it may well be these long little false flats could go to the advantage of Jeremy Watt, who's proved that he's a very good climber. Tor Hushoff knows that the time is kicking by. The next barrier they're going to see is going to be 3 kilometers to go to the finish. That corresponds to about 4.5 or maybe maximum 5 minutes of effort.
3 kilometers to go now. He's about 4 and a bit minutes away from the finishing line. 4 and a bit minutes. If you could ride the bike for him, I reckon they would. The way those crowds, the crowd is just cheering here. And this is the chase, and I think at the end of the day there will be desperate moments from Hushoff. He'll have to go, and he's gone.
Well, Hushoff has got the power in those legs. He's just going to look at the rider in front, that white jersey on the shoulders of Jeremy Watt. It's still 13 seconds. It looks as if Jeremy Watt's starting to crack because Hushoff is going across that gap.
This is the gap. He can't rely on Moncoutier, so he's had to shake him off his wheel. Moncoutier, though, is like a limpet. He's coming back to him. What a pursuit. 3 riders dotted on the horizon here, racing for first place in the Tour de France. And Tor Hushoff, this incredible Norwegian, is now trying to reach this Frenchman and spoil the party.
Well, the camera looks back and it sees the white jersey with the rainbow bands around the middle. The current champion of the world. He won that title in Geelong, Australia in October of last year, and he's just about got himself into the slipstream. But Jeremy Watt will not give up until he knows that Tor Hushoff is right there locked into his wheel. He's made it across, Tor Hushoff.
He catches at 2.3 kilometers from the finish. 2 riders together. I think you'll find Moncoutier might get back. He's hit him straight away because he knows he's tired, and he's going to ride to a solitary win here. Tor Hushoff, the world champion. This will be the great moment. Under 2 kilometers to go for the world champion. Now he's free to fly in the most coveted jersey in the world, that of a world champion.
What a moment of pride for Norway. As you can see, the scramble. Moncoutier now is coming up to the wheel of Jeremy Roy, but nothing is holding back Thor Hushovd at all this afternoon. He is a great individual time trials. We said that in the early part of his career. He's a world champion at the under-23 level of the time trial. But here, he has changed his yellow tunic that he had over the first week of the Tour de France, Phil, and he's put back his World Championships jersey onto his shoulders. What a moment of joy that's going to be. He's looking around the corner to see, tell me where the kilometre to go banner is, please.
The race was 152 kilometres today, 2 kilometres too far for Jeremy Roy, who will be on the podium tonight as the new leader in the King of the Mountains. But the stage win is going the way of the Norwegian world champion. And you would have got impossible odds on this man at the start of this stage because of the mountain in the middle. There is the 1 kilometre to go. This is rather a narrow approach to the town. They didn't expect a big bunch sprint, and indeed they haven't got one. Lourdes hasn't seen the Tour de France since the end of the 40s, and now they're seeing the world champion bring it on home.
Well, Gino Bartoli, the famous Gino Bartoli from Italy, was the last man to win on the streets of Lourdes this afternoon, and still, Phil, there are Norwegian flags all over the place.
Look at the crowd here, and this will inspire Hushovd all the way to the line for his 9th historical stage win. He rode his first Tour de France, and he lasted 12 days back in 2001. And what the fairy tale for the American Garmin Cervelo team continues here. He can't believe he's winning this stage with all those mounted behind him. This wasn't to be his day. It is now.
Well, he's going to be extremely satisfied with this one, Phil. He's won 8 times before at the Tour de France, but when you're a sprinter and you've dragged your body over the biggest mountains that the Pyrenees can slap in your face, it's going to be a massive moment of pride, and a huge smile will come across his face.
He just doesn't believe it. This will, I reckon, he'll rate as the finest win of his career, win number 8 in the Tour de France, and he comes home both arms in the world. The world champion, and he wants you to see he's the world champion, has to win a stage of the Tour de France in that jersey. There are only 2 Norwegians in the race, that's Boysenhagen and Thor, and they've both won stages now.
And they're both going to finish in the top 10 on today's stage as David Moncoutier comes across the line. He marked this race in his book today to try and get himself the victory. He's going to have to settle for 2nd place, but here is the hero of the day, Jeremy Roy. He failed for 2.5 kilometres. He cannot believe it. I know it hurts in the heart.
It was a brilliant, brilliant race across the mountains, and he didn't win it, but he went down fighting, and he has got a jersey, the first ever jersey he'll have pulled on in the Tour de France.
Now, we'll get to Roy and his jersey in a moment, but first the stage results. And what a result for Thor Hushovd, hunting down Jeremy Roy like the bogeyman in a rainbow jersey. David Moncoutier passed Roy 2 on the run-in. Lars Bak won the mini-sprint for 4th ahead of Jérôme Pinault and Edvald Boasson-Hagen. Then came Vladimir Gusov and Alessandro Petacchi. Now, Philippe Gilbert sprinted in to take 10th. The sprint was for time, not points, because Bauke Mollema wasn't about to contest it with him. But 10 did get him 6 points to wipe out the 4 he'd conceded to Mark Cavendish at the intermediate sprint. And we owe Cav an apology, having insisted live that Gilbert had misjudged the sprint by going early, which was partly based on his going back to the race director's car to complain. It turns out that Mark was right all along. Gilbert had simply tried to get an early jump on the sprinters, and he was back at the car actually complaining to Jean-Francois Pecheur about HTC and Movistar using other riders to mop up the placings ahead of him. So that's that settled. And talking of the green jersey, Jose Joaquin Rojas was up front looking for points when the main field rolled in over 7 minutes after the winner.
As we come up to the line with the peloton, Rojas, the nearest man to Mark Cavendish in the green jersey competition, is going to take out just 4 points here as he wins the peloton sprint for 12th place today.
So after all that, Jose Joaquin Rojas has edged closer to Mark Cavendish. He's within 13 points now. Philippe Gilbert is 2 points closer than he was this morning, 24 back. No points at the finish for Cav, of course. He came in with the autobus 22 minutes down. Well, he's been saying for a while that he's no longer a real sprinter, but he is a genuine hard man, and his 9th stage win in the Tour will go down as his best so far. He had only 1 win in the World Champions jersey this season coming into the Tour, but it's been Tour's Tour as much as anyone so far. He spoke to Ned.
It was real panache. When you eventually retire and you look back on your Tour de France stage wins, that's got to be the best one, hasn't it, in some ways?
This is the best one, absolutely. I mean, winning alone with a rainbow jersey, going over Col de Bisque, a big rider, like a heavy rider like me, it's the most incredible.
Of course, one man's incredible is another man's miserable, and Jeremy Roy was the loser as far as the stage goes, although he did pick up the King of the Mountains jersey, as well as the prize for the day's most aggressive rider.
Oui, il y a beaucoup de déceptions. J'aurais bien échangé le maillot contre la victoire d'étape. Ça aurait été mieux, mais bon, c'est une maigre consolation d'avoir le maillot quand même.
On a presque réussi.
Presque, c'est le bon mot. Il y a 2 kilomètres de l'arrivée, mais bon, c'est le sport, c'est comme ça. Je me fais battre par un beau champion du monde.
Et tu as fini maintenant avec les attaques?
J'espère pas. Pas demain, je pense pas. Je pense que j'aurai mal aux jambes. Mais bon, j'avais déjà dit ça hier, mais finalement, j'avais bien dormi.
Well, a kamikaze attack from the gun tomorrow is about all that might keep Jeremy Roy in the polka dot jersey. But as far as the yellow jersey goes, there's too much improbable history on Thomas Voerkler's side to write him off completely.
Thomas, another day in yellow. I know you love these, but it's the Plateau de Bay tomorrow, isn't it? A mountain you know well.
Yeah, it's good. Remind good moments in Plateau de Bay, and we will see what happened. But what I know is that the stage to lose Ardiden was very, very hard, and tomorrow I think it will be harder. So wait and see.
So that's how things look tonight. Thomas Voerkler keeps his lead of 1 minute 49 over Frank Schleck. Cadel Evans sits between him and Andy. Then it's Ivan Basso, Damiano Cunego, Alberto Contador and Samuel Sanchez. Philippe Gilbert continues his attack on 2 fronts. He's ridden himself into 9th overall, pushing Tom Danielson and Nicholas Roche into 10th and 11th. Geraint Thomas is 39th, Tourousov up to 48th, David Miller 59th, and Ben Swift and Mark Cavendish 130th and 131st respectively. Right, that's day 2 in the Pyrenees done. The third and final day is a 6-headed monster. We'll be taking a look at the route map right after the competition. This week, courtesy of Halfords, we're giving you the chance to take inspiration from the Tour and ride away on a set of his and hers Boardman road bikes worth a total of £1,700. Plus, if you enter any of our 3 competitions during this year's Tour, you'll be entered into a second draw to win 2 places for you and a friend on the Étape du Tour 2012, courtesy of Rafa. We also have an exclusive Rafa special edition Galibier jersey for 10 runners-up. Call 090 4959 6060. Calls cost no more than £1 and 3 pence from BT landlines. Calls from other networks may be higher, and from mobiles will be considerably more. Or you can text BIKES to 83366. Text costs £1 plus 1 standard network rate message. Red button viewers can enter by pressing their red button now. You can also enter free at itv.com. Entrance must be 18 or over, and lines close at 4 p.m. on the 18th of July. Entries made after closing time won't be counted, but may still be charged. Right, let's look ahead to stage 14 then, and for their last day in the Pyrenees, the riders have 5 major cols to get over, then a 6th by way of a summit finish. The climbing starts pretty much from the gun on the Col de Port d'Aspet. The intermediate sprint is after 36.5 kilometres, then come the Col de la Cour and the Col de la Trappe. Apart from the finish itself, the Col d'Agnès is the highest summit en route at getting on for 1,600 metres, and the riders tackle the Port de l'Air on the way down, as it were. Then comes the final challenge of the day, the super category climb up to nearly 1,800 metres at Plateau de Bay. And to make sure we can fit all that in, we're coming on earlier than ever, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning for live coverage of stage 14. Highlights in their usual spot at 7 in the evening. And we better dismantle the set now and set off, otherwise we're not going to be there in time. See you bright and early tomorrow morning, 11, for stage 14 live on ITV4. Should be an